All right, I think we are ready to get started. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today. We are going to be talking about our version 25.2, the latest release, and the back-to-work functionality that is incorporated with that. We have Fred Kraus with us today, who will be walking you through all of this. Just a few housekeeping items. Everyone is on mute, so if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the questions or chat sections, and we will get to those at the end of the presentation. And we are also recording this, and we will be sending out the recording either later today or tomorrow. So with that, I will turn it over to Fred.
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everybody. As Danielle mentioned, I'm Fred Kraus, Director of Product for Archibus, and I'm really excited to be here this morning and take you through our launch of version 25.2. This will probably be about 35 to 40 minutes, so we'll have plenty of time for questions at the end. So what's new in 25.2? Well, we had plenty of grand plans for our future, but we did quite a bit of pivoting and decided that since everybody's been talking about back to work, we really should start addressing or continue to address back to work needs as the highlight. So 25.2 does definitely highlight back to work and some enhancements with moves. We'll spend most of the time there talking about back to work, and then I'll address some other user interface enhancements in other areas of the product, such as workplace and space, and end with some other improvements that we've made to the platform around Revit, Smart Client, and security. So we'll go right in and talk about back to work. I don't know among you in the audience how many webinars you've attended or readings you've done about back to work. Certainly there's been plenty in our industry, and we've done a lot of thinking about it ourselves. And what we've come up with at Archibus Review is back to work phases, 4 of them that we've established. And I think I shouldn't actually dismiss the first bullet saying that, this has been in many facility managers' minds, anybody who's managing facilities, real estate, anybody in HR. I mean, the plans, the replanning, the watching has been going on, I think, among all of us. And so just want to recognize that and say that with that, we've established 4 phases in this process. The first is situational awareness. Who are your employees? Where are they located? What is your locations? How many seats do you have in your buildings? Where are they located? What are the situations going on externally in those buildings, in those areas related to the pandemic? So I put a check mark there because this is really Archibus bread and butter. We have space planning, we have occupancy and personnel. All of that we have already, and we can build on that in the other phases that I'll talk about. The second phase is workplace planning. So that really gets into how you plan your back to work. Who's going to come back and when and how? So we talk about who are your critical employees. Are you going to establish phases for them to come back? Are they going to come back in shifts, alternating days of the week, for example, or some at the beginning of the week and some at the end of the week? Are we going to do some hoteling arrangements or fixed assignments or some of both? And how do you do all that with capacities constraints that are in place to make sure that everybody stays safe when they come back? The third phase is workforce enablement, and that's really enabling the employees when they do come back to have what they need at their fingertips as it relates to the facility. And for Archibus, that gets into being able to book desks if you're doing a hoteling strategy, being able to request services, being able to be notified by facilities in case there are changes of plans or in case something happens. So that part is workforce enablement. And the fourth is monitor and adjust. How do facility professionals monitor what's going on in their workplaces and adjust to the changing circumstances. So we list here things like booking reports, who's come in and when, and of course that could be very critical in any contact tracing that you may need to do. Capacity metrics, incident reporting, as we do in health and safety, and of course notifications, some of which we do in emergency preparedness. So those are the 4 phases, and in the ensuing slides, I'll talk about how Archibus has responded to these phases, and then we'll get into some more detail in videos that I'll narrate that go into what we've done in 25.2 to address these. Workplace planning, and I hope this makes sense, and if there's any questions, please put those in and I'll address those at the end. Workplace planning. So I just mentioned, how do you what sort of, how are you going to bring your employees back, when, where, and who? And so we have this new view called Mark Employees for Return to Work. Simple filter and list, but what we've done is enabled other items in there, such as designating people who are always remote versus people who are coming back in, and when they're coming back in as far as days in the office. We have a new return to work info field to mark things like, and I'll demonstrate this, to mark things like phases, for example, or cohorts that are coming back in, so you can easily search on those items as you mark people. You can search on them later and report on who is in those cohorts. And employee status, what are they? That's actually a free-form field. You could use it for any purpose. So that's really about workplace planning. And additionally, workplace planning is also about, once you have marked those people and identified who's coming back and when, then it's about placing those people safely on your floor plans. And so here's a picture of the space console that I'll demonstrate later, and being able to first highlight rooms by status. You can mark rooms that are no longer available versus ones that are, versus ones that require cleaning. And you can filter rooms by that status, or by vacancies by day, or by any of those employee fields that I mentioned. So show me the employees that are coming back in the first phase, and where they're seating. So there's a lot of filtering and highlighting options that are applicable to safely returning. And all of that predicated by helping validate social distancing by those circles that you can turn on and off, and that indicate by, if they're overlapping in red, what rooms you may need to turn off in order to make sure that all of your seats are safe distance from other seats. Then we get into workforce enablement. So you've set up your employees, you've set up your seating plans, and eventually, hopefully, we all can then come back to the office safely. And that's about enabling employees to do that. One of the things that we've done, and this shows our workplace app, that we released in 24.1. Hopefully you're familiar with it, but the employee-facing front end for workplace allows you to do hoteling and also request services. With 25.2, we added a cleaning workflow, so that after the end of the day, after the desks were used in a hoteling capacity, it automatically sets out a workflow to clean those rooms through maintenance. So a new maintenance ticket for cleaning, and then those hotelable desks are offline until the cleaning work completes, and then they become online again. So a nice workflow to kind of ensure that the proper cleaning takes place for rooms that were used the previous day. Finally, I mentioned monitor and adjust, and for that we have a new, it's not so much of a promotion, but actually a homepage with additional applications that will be available both for Archibus Cloud, as they are currently available for Archibus generally on-prem or partner hosted, and that includes condition assessment, emergency preparedness, and health and safety. I mentioned especially in emergency preparedness, the idea of doing bulk notifications, health and safety to monitor and do incident reporting. Both powerful applications that round out our Back-to-Work package, and we've also encapsulated those with a dynamic workplace homepage that shows metrics and tasks that are applicable to those three applications. So that's the response, or how we're enabling that monitor and adjust phase. It's important to note that what we just showed in terms of the Back-to-Work functionality in 25.2, that it's designed for Back-to-Work, but these trends really were there even before the pandemic hit, and will probably continue well into a new normal. So concepts such as employee statuses, or working remotely, or working in certain days of the office, room statuses, showing vacancies by day, planning by phases, and obviously hoteling. These are concepts that have been in the works for a while, as we've all gone to more kind of flexible, or not all of us, but many organizations have gone to flexible arrangements with their employees. So these tools or concepts, I note here that they're more permanent than Back-to-Work would suggest. They're certainly very applicable in this where we are right now in the world, but they'll stay around for I think for some time to come. So with that, I'm going to get into the demo and kind of show all of that in action. So stay tuned, pay attention. This is exciting. So first, we're going to talk about setting up the safe spaces. So I'm going to quickly go to the Space console, where in the recent search, I'm going to concentrate, just for the sake of the demo, on this set of rooms for one department on this floor, this claims department. And what it's doing is showing me the rooms that are marked as available for the claims department. So I'm going to concentrate on these 24 seats, and note that it's 24. And what I'm doing is turning on my circles. And I see here in these desks that there are some that are red, indicating that they're too close together. So I'm going to actually just select every other one and mark them, instead of available, mark them as do not use. So you go and you multi-select, go to your room status, which is a new field available here, and say do not use, save, and you're done. Your number of available seats went down to 16. We just turned off 8 desks. I'll just mention also here that these circles are configurable, so that you can actually adjust the number of the radius of those circles. So you can make them smaller or bigger depending on what you want. You can turn them on or off based on they only show ones that are available. So you see the circles turned off are the ones that are do not use. And you could also make them applicable to certain standards. What I show here is that this center here, where you have a lot of conference rooms, primary circulation space, or around the elevator or the kitchen, these areas you might just want to just shut off, because you know that people in a seating arrangement are not going to want to sit in any desks that are near like circulation areas. So in one fell swoop, you can actually just kind of select them all and change their status. So you don't have you want to concentrate then on the desks that you actually can use, rather than the ones that you can't. So you see that all of those in area just are turned off. So that's kind of a smart thing to do. I think when you're looking at those social distance circles to plan the desks that you actually are going to wind up using. And like I said, there's other things like standards, such as walled-in offices could be used. So you might want to just say, well, for walled-in offices, I'm not gonna show my social distance circles, because it doesn't really necessarily apply. So it's a good tool to use to help you plan your spaces back, as I just showed. And here in this example, we went, for this claims department, we went from 24 desks down to 16. That's important to know when we go to the next task, which is identify the people who are coming back and then occupy the spaces on the floor plan. So here, I'm going to go back into this video, and here's the new Mark Employees for Return to Work view. I'm going to filter by that same department in that building. So maybe you didn't associate people with your with individual seats anymore, but they're still part of the building. And you notice that there's 24 here. How do you fit 24 people into 16 seats? Well, the first thing I do is I'm going to say I'm going to double up 8 people. So 24 minus 8 is 16. I'm going to double up eight people in the same seats. So I'm going to mark these 8 as coming back on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to mark the next 8. And of course, you could probably be more selective, but just for the purpose of showing what's possible in this, this is the scenario I'm putting together, and I'm marking then these other 8 people as Tuesday, Thursday. Finally, I have 4 people that I know I want to return. They're critical employees and I want them to return and sit permanently back in the office. So I'm going to give them permanent spaces and I'm going to put them in phase 1 as an example of using that return to work info field. I mentioned cohorts as another, so you can say, well, what happens if you have alternating weeks? You can use cohort 1 or cohort 2 to designate different cohorts of people coming back at different times. And finally, I mentioned 4 other people who are just going to hotel. So I put return to work info as hoteling, if you saw that. Back at the space console, I'm going to look at those same seats again. And I have new options here. Show me the rooms that are vacant on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because those are the people that I'm going to place on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So these rooms highlight. They are available. They're vacant on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm going to go to my employee list, and we're going to find those same people that I just marked in the other view. So I'll look at the organization on that building, and I have the same people. And so here I'm marrying the people that we've indicated as Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to the spaces that are available on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I do that by placing those in the waiting room, and then I'll drag and drop them onto spaces. I fast forward, it's going through this, and so I've placed these 8 people going back Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now these rooms are not highlighted because they're not available. They're not vacant on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. But if I change to Tuesday, Thursday in my search, they show as vacant again. And here I can use them to, like I said, double up these seats. Now I have 8 people. I'm going to place those 8 people in the same seats for Tuesday, Thursday. So this shows how you can place people. You can show vacancies by day and place people accordingly. Now my next step is show me those always vacant rooms. And of course, the ones that I place people are not always vacant anymore. And I'm going to go to the phase 1 people and place them into rooms that are vacant, because these are the ones I want to permanently occupy spaces because they're critical employees. So in a few short steps, I've done some work on placing people both days of the week and permanent assignments. And these rooms, if you remember, I had 4 people who I wanted to hotel, and I'll mark these 4 spaces as hotelable. And the hotelable flag, I think, is new to this release in the Space Console as well. Finally, you can actually report on these things that I just did. So back down into the employee part of the search, I'm saying, show me the employees that are designated for phase 1. I see the employees here and where they're assigned. So I can export this information. I can see where they are assigned. I can show that in a spreadsheet. Similarly, for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I can search. And on the left-hand side, you can see those employees that are shown on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and where they're seated in the floor plan. So just to recap in a few short steps, I marked employees for alternating days of the week. I marked some employees that are permanent assignments. I marked some people that were coming back in hoteling faction, just showing the flexibility of what you can do in the occupancy plan. And then I made my occupancy plan, placing people in rooms Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, Tuesday, Thursday, permanent assignments. I set up hoteling rooms, and then I showed reporting on those. Once I've had my results, or if you're in the middle of your plan and you want to go back to it, show me those employees that are seated permanently, show me those employees that are seated Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you have the list in front of you and the seats in which they are occupied, which they occupy. So hopefully that's clear about the planning phase and what BacktoWork in 25.2 does to address that. Finally, in enablement, we're going to go through a little hoteling and cleaning workflow, as I mentioned. So we'll start by, in Archibus Workplace, our responsive design employee experience app, I go to book spaces. I'm going to show, as someone who's going to come into to the office as a hoteling fashion, I want to highlight those spaces that are available in my department. And you see the 4 that I had indicated as hotelable. I select one, I book, I select today, and I'm done. Similarly, someone else may come and book another space. So I just have 2 spaces that I'm showing to book for 2 different people, for example. So I've booked spaces for the employee enablement piece, which is easy enough to do. And now in the maintenance console, just to show the cleaning workspace type of work requests that have been created at the end of the day to clean those spaces. So what we've done is by floor indicate the rooms that need to be cleaned. And just to show also on the space console, if you go and say, show me the rooms that require cleaning, you see the rooms, you see across the portfolio the ones that require cleaning, and specifically the ones on the 5th floor of NCO 5 that I had hoteled in. So here, if I highlight by room status, you can see those ones that were just hoteled. And again, once they are cleaned, and once that room status changed to required cleaning based on a workflow that happens at the end of the day, and once they're cleaned and the work request, the work ticket is completed, those hotelable rooms come, their status changes back to available, so that the next day someone else can hotel those rooms. So hopefully that's clear as well. And that pretty much wraps up the demonstration of what we've done for BacktoWork in 25.2. I'm going to go on and talk a little bit more about, there's more actually that we've done in 25.2 in addition to the BacktoWork sequences I just showed, and I'm happy to dive into a little bit of the highlights there. So one thing that in the move console where we can plan move scenarios, we realized that we had employees that are part of the move project and employees that maybe are already sitting on the floor that are not part of the move project. And what we've done is we've given those different employees different colors, so you can easily or readily identify the ones in blue who are part of the move project versus the ones that are maybe as reference already sitting on the floor that aren't. And that allows you, when you're creating a layout scenario or occupancy scenario in a move, you can identify the ones that you can drag and drop around to create your occupancy scenario, as opposed to the ones that are already sitting on the floor that remain stationary. In Workplace, you can now configure your colors to match perhaps your corporate brand. So it's easy enough I showed the Workplace, there was a little light blue highlights, but you can change that standard to be, for example, green or red, depending on the, fitting into what the corporate or the brand in which you work. Back on the space console, we have a layer menu that allows you to select the background layers that you see on the floor plan. You can see the furniture or the equipment, for example, or turn those off. And in previous versions, they didn't retain after you searched or after you picked another floor plan. Now they do. So you can retain those layer selections when switching floors. And what's more, you could also define defaults in application parameters. You can say, well, by default, I want my furniture to be turned on, but my equipment to be turned off. You can define those defaults so that you have a default layer selection when you enter the Space Console and show your floors. We did some work to improve the user interface of our billing performance report. This is a high-level report showing rentable usable area by floor for buildings. You can see your efficiency rate, your RU ratios, just high-level statistics by floor and space. And I think you'll agree that we made this much more visually pleasing to look at the statistics. The statistics. Finally, other improvements that we've addressed in 25.2. In our Revit extension, we've introduced a better way to handle central local models. So list here, the benefits are improved workflow for users of models that come from different disciplines. That helps reduce duplication of effort for multiple users and the ability to sync seamlessly between the local model and changes to local model in the central file. So if you have someone working on your architectural plan versus someone working on your MEP plan, they can make their own, they can sync to their own local copies of their plans, make changes and sync back. And the central file is the source of truth and holds all of those changes. So as I show here in a common workflow, you can open the local model, set your Archibus properties, catalog your assets. If you sync to central and someone else opens another model and syncs, those Archibus properties and assets are recognized. A lot of time in the Revit world, the central file is a source of truth, not to be touched, and the local files are the ones that you use to make changes, and they vary by discipline. So we enable that to happen on our Revit extension. Other improvements that are notable in maintenance, you can access reference docs for archived work. Some of these work came in from our customer support department, and we've addressed the ones that were higher priority. We support Microsoft Project 2016 and capital projects. For REST APIs, which we introduced in 25.1, you can now deploy them on the same server, and that solution is available upon request. The Outlook plugin, we've enabled OAuth 2 authentication with Outlook 365. The database update wizard, which is a great way, automated way to update database schema between when you're upgrading versions. It now supports doing only inserts or only updates separately. We've passed the 25.2 Veracode scan for security updates. And we've done a lot of bug fixes, again, coming from customers such as you in Smart Client Extension, Smart Client Grid, and the ESRI Extension as well. And finally, in 25.2, we've ended the support for V1 views, which are legacy views that we don't actually use very much anymore or use it all in Web Central. So they're not shipped with the version anymore. Finally, what's next? So some items under consideration for future versions include being able to do a little bit more with configurable fields or custom fields, and including those fields in highlights or reports, something we're looking into now to do. Also, enabling questionnaires and surveys for maintenance. So this enables, let's say you have a safety checklist or a compliance checklist as part of doing your PMs or even reactive maintenance. you can attach those questionnaires to your maintenance as part of actually your SLAs, your SLA workflow, and then fill out those surveys as part of that, again, for things like safety checklists or compliance checklists, and then reporting on those details. We're looking at integrating with Autodesk Forge. We've done some proof of concept work there, and done some other enhancements. We're considering other enhancements in other areas of the product that are important for, I think, for BacktoWork, including the BacktoWork sequences that I just showed, workplace enhancements, and REST APIs. So we're continuing to enhance every release. We devote plenty of time to enhancing our user interface. Hope you agree that our interface has improved quite a bit in the last couple of years, and we continue to look and invest effort into continuing to improve it. So that's other areas of under consideration that we'll continue to address. And one way that you could help us is by using user voice. So this is something that we've enabled recently, and hopefully you can get a login and give us your suggestions. So user voice is a tool that we use to capture ideas, suggestions from customers, and we do that by initiating your own ideas or voting on ideas that already are there, and the ones that are that have a lot of votes we know are very important to many people, and so those are the ones that we take seriously and will inform our roadmap going forward. So hope you take a look at user voice and give us your ideas, or more importantly, vote on ideas that are there, so that we know the ones that are important for you that we should consider. And now I think I'm done with my part. I'm happy to hand it over to Danielle to talk about some other offers that we have.
Thank you, Fred, and that was a great overview on the updates. Thank you so much. So just a few reminders before we get to the questions. The first one is we do have our health and safety application that we are giving away for free new licenses until the end of September 2021. So if you want additional information on that, you can go to info.archibus.com/EHS-offer. And if we go to the next slide, we also have our BacktoWork Resource Center that we wanted to remind everybody about. So this is where we are posting all of our webinar recordings. We have some case studies or interviews that we've done with customers that are using Archibus to help mitigate COVID-19. Any other resources that we have available, we are posting them here on this BacktoWork Resource Center. And you can find that at info.archibus.com/BacktoWork. And so with that, I think we can go ahead and move to the questions. We have several that have come through. The first one is it possible to export a PDF report of who is sitting where and when?
Yes, so the exports from the Space Console will give you the occupancy plan based on your filter. So if you filtered for Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you see the people and you've used the labels, then you can export that information. We are in full disclosure for 25.2, the labels and the highlights are set for permanent occupants, and we're going to enhance that in the next version. I mentioned BacktoWork enhancements to just show labels and highlights based on those days of the week. So the answer is a little bit of yes and no. The labels that will show employees that also may be in other days of the week, because it's basically, it shows just permanent, or just it shows the employees that are any employees that are part of that room, but we're working on enhancements to tighten that up in 25.3.
Okay, great, thank you. The next question is, are workplace planning scenarios made using automation, machine learning, such as AI, or are they manual?
Good question. They're mostly manual. So I would say the automation really comes in. You set your. I'm guessing this question has to do with the social distance circles that you can set. So you can set the diameter, the radius of those circles, so you can make them bigger or smaller, and then they apply to the floor plan. They show those circles, and they will automatically set to red or green based on whether they intersect with other circles, and the circles are drawn around the center of the rooms. Now, as I mentioned, you can say I don't want to see those circles for rooms of certain statuses. So if they're already set to not available, they don't show. You also can turn them off for certain room standards that don't make sense to show. And as I showed in the first video, you can multi-select your areas of circulation and quickly turn them off. So it's more of a manual exercise, and one of the reasons that I think that's important is because each floor plan is different, and it does take a lot of know-how to say, well, you know what, I mean, even if it's socially distant, if there's areas that are really heavy traffic areas around circulation spaces or around restrooms, you might want to turn them off. So I think that the value is in enabling the space planners to do their work in a much easier fashion, but not as much in the AI right now.
Gotcha. Thank you. The next question is, are you able to have a variation of radius distancing from one area to another, say 6 feet and 8 feet?
Good question. I believe you can set and reset that radius, but I don't think it's, I might have to come back to you on that. It's either universal or it's by building, but I'm off the top of my head, I don't recall. So I'd have to get back to you on whether you can set the radius by building or it's universal. Either way, you can set and reset it also. So you can always do planning and then reset it and do some other planning.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I can reply to that question.
Okay. Sure.
So we have both options. We can set it globally for the entire portfolio, or if you prefer to set it by building, you can set it by building.
You. All right, there's your answer.
Thank you, Octavian.
Thanks, Octavian.
Okay, the next question is, for users when booking, would the user or employee see all of the other users or employees that have booked, or do they only see that the desk is not available?
They only see the desk is not available.
Okay.
So yeah, individual employees don't see the bookings of other, who's booked.
Okay.
Yeah, you can search for people separately, but.
Okay, perfect. The next question is the booking different from the hoteling?
No, so that interface I showed in Workplace is just as an employee front end to the hoteling application.
All right. Okay, the next question is, when you were talking about the third step, which is workforce enablement, you mentioned for people when they come back, how do you communicate the new floor plan to staff? I see an option for the MARC employees for return to work. Is there any mass emailing to pass on the floor plan so the staff know where they are going to desk ABC, say on Monday, Wednesday,
Right.
Friday?
Right. Good question. There is, and I didn't mention it in the video, but there is an email button on the MARC employee return to work view. So you can set people, and then you can and then you can click that email button that emails those people out information about what you've just set. So that shows that will email things like their plan, days that they're returning or phase that they're returning or any other return to work info. As far as emailing them their seat, that would be after, it's a good case that would be after you place them. And we currently, unless Octavian, correct me if I'm wrong, but we currently don't have a mass email for that portion of it where they're seating.
I can correct you on that. So when you send the email from the return to work view, it includes also the location.
Oh, it does. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go back to that view once you.
So you can go back to the view, and as a department manager, you select the people in your department, and an email goes to each of them with their individual information.
Great,
so each
thank you.
Is personalized to each individual.
Great, thank you, Fred and Octavian. The next question is, does the hoteling functionality demonstrated require having the hoteling application?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Next question, what licensing is required for the return to work functionality demonstrated?
Well, it's based on the no special licensing, just based on the applications that I showed. So most of that was in Space. The return to work info and the Space console are both part of the Space application. There's hoteling, as I mentioned, for the hoteling part, and there's maintenance for that maintenance workflow. So if you have maintenance, you would be able to use the maintenance console to address your maintenance tickets for cleaning. And I think that rounds out. So there's components of Space, maintenance, and hoteling that I showed. And in addition, I mentioned condition assessment, emergency prep, and health and safety as applications that have tools for the monitor and adjust phase as well.
Great, thank you. Next question, is the concept of the end of the day to trigger the required cleaning based on the end of the day parameter for the hoteling end of the day? For example,
Yes.
If it's set to 5 p.m. in the parameters.
Yes, I believe, again, Octavian can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that is based on that afternoon end time for hoteling.
Yes, it's based on that. It's also based on the building's time zone. So if you have a larger organization, it takes into consideration the building time zone.
Great, thank you. Next we have, is the requiring cleaning functionality that blocks rooms only available for hoteling or also for reservations?
The required cleaning is a room status, so it's available for any rooms. It only shows it only figures into the logic for available rooms for hoteling, not for reservations.
Okay, thank you. Next we have, will the Outlook plugin allow users to email work requests?
Not that I'm aware. The Outlook plugin hasn't changed, so I don't believe that there's the option to email work requests using the Outlook plugin.
Okay. Next we are on B21.2, moving to 25. Have the handling of SLAs been improved? For example, do you still have to move them up or down to adjust the order?
Good question. Hard for me to remember. Back to 21.2, but we do have, the answer is yes, you still have to move SLAs up or down if you want to change the ordering sequence. For example, if you have competing order of parameters, of request parameters. The benefit though is in and I apologize, I don't remember the version, but we have a SLA wizard that allows you to bulk or at least group SLAs together. So SLAs that have like a common workflow you can group together. So that makes and that group actually is reflected in that interface where you're ordering them. So you can order by group. Makes it a little bit easier than ordering individually.
Got it. Thank you. Next question, will the Outlook plugin for reservations be available for Mac?
I have to get back to you on that. I'm off the top of my head. I'm not familiar with the environment requirements around the Outlook plugin, but that is available in our system management help.
Okay. Next question, when will Archibus V1 officially phase out? I believe that's the V1 views.
V1 views are not being shipped with 25.2, so they're phased out as of 25.2.
Okay. Next question, when using the hoteling, you can book a room. Is there a functionality to also reserve an asset such as a computer? As an example, a student is reserving a room and they also want to reserve a lab computer.
Good question. With hoteling, we do not, only desks are reservable or bookable by hoteling. The workplace interface does, if you have reservations, you can enable reservations in workplace as well. Reservations as probably is known that you can also reserve resources with reservations, but not with hoteling.
Okay, thank you. The next question, which version of AutoCAD version will be best for Archibus V25.2?
Yeah, it's a system management help. In the system management help, we have all the information about system requirements and what's compatible with each version. So off the top of my head, I don't know how the versions that it goes down to. Certainly, we've proven AutoCAD with the most recent versions of Autodesk, but I don't know off the top of my head whether, for example, like what years we support down to.
Okay, so we can send that link out with the recording. Mm-hmm. Okay, next we have, how does an end user find where another end user is based on the Monday, Wednesday, Friday approach on the portal? For example, it's Wednesday, is person A in the office or at home?
Yeah, good question. Right now, on the portal, I don't think we enable that information. But it's a good user voice idea and consideration for the future for sure. But right now on the portal for finding, I imagine that's the workplace portal for finding people. We show people who are either assigned or not to rooms, but not that level of detail. But good suggestion.
Okay. Next we have, if one employee wanted to work near another employee when booking a hotel, could they see where their coworkers were?
Same as similar to the last question. Right now, the search in our workplace interface shows permanent assignments, not hotel assignments, but that's another good suggestion for future.
Okay. And then somebody just wanted to confirm, hoteling and booking are the same?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I use those words interchangeably.
We have a few more that just came through. So, does putting a room in needs cleaning status prevent booking for future dates until it is cleaned?
Good question. And it's again something. So it's I should have noted at the beginning that 25.2 is our first quarterly release. We last year did quarterly releases for only Archibus Cloud, but not the full Archibus. This year and in the future, we're doing full Archibus releases quarterly. So 25.2 just came out. 25.3 is coming out next in a quarter's time. And I mention that because that's also something we already have on the radar for our next version, which is separating out whether it's a just-in-time booking and a future booking, and only applying that status, the available status, to just-in-time bookings. Right now, it's applied to both cases, but as the question points out, it's not necessarily needed for future bookings. So we're gonna change that.
Okay, thank you. Next question, in the Hotel and Clean app, can the end user adjust the frequency of cleaning by the number of hours a space is occupied?
The cleaning is set by, well, first of all, it can be turned on or off, so it doesn't always have to, that workflow doesn't always have to be used. I mentioned it, as I mentioned before, it's only controlled, the timing is only controlled by that afternoon end time. So if you do change the afternoon end time, then you can change when that workflow commences.
Great, thank you. Next, to confirm when a space is booked, when a space is booked, the work request to clean is automatically generated to the appropriate work team. And is the area set back to usable when the work request is complete or closed?
Yes, that's the idea. The workflow is based on the SLA, so you can set up SLA workflows just like any other maintenance item. And when that ticket is marked as complete is when the rooms go back to available.
Great, thank you. Next we have, can we get a brief description on the improvements to the ESRI extension?
I'm happy to share that information. It's actually going to be in our documentation in what's new and in the revision history, all the details about what's been enhanced in the Revit extension, and we'll share that link with the video.
Great, thank you. Next, are some of the BacktoWork features available for B24 in order to be used with our existing clients, or do they have to upgrade their solution?
Is that, Danielle, is that to take advantage of the BacktoWork feature set?
Yes.
Yeah. We are, so check with your business partner. We are offering a way to backport the BacktoWork feature set to previous to 24.1 and 25.1. So please check with your business partner about that. We did introduce that option.
Great, thank you. Next, is the BacktoWork solution available within Foundations?
It is, so Foundations for Archibus Cloud, it is not.
Okay.
It's available in the Space module.
Thank you. Next, we have in the Smart Client, if someone overwrites default views by making a join with another table or any other changes, is it possible in 25.2 to revert that view to default view?
I'd have to, yeah, sorry, I can't answer that on the spot. I'm not really clear on that question.
No worries, we can follow up with some more information. All right, looks like we have just time for a couple more here. If Archibus releases are available quarterly, are they accessible to download to clients under subscription anytime during the year?
We would typically offer download only the most current version, but if I don't see why, yeah, if someone wants to buy a previous version or upgrade only to a previous version, it's a good question for our business development colleagues. I don't see why that wouldn't be an option, but I'm not positive.
Okay, we can check into that.
Yeah.
Sure. We'll do two more here. If a booking is confirmed for a subsequent day and cleaning is not completed, will the booking get canceled or the user notified that the space was not cleaned?
We're working on that workflow in 25.3.
Okay.
I'm glad that these are great questions. First of all, so thank you, and it does validate some of the thinking that we have already had for our next version. So that's really good questions, and good to see that alignment.
Great, thank you. And I think the last question that we'll take for right now is, can you use a work request for users that are in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Tuesday, Thursday, since they will be different users?
Certainly, not automatically. So not like the cleaning workflow that I just showed applies to the hoteling use case. What's talked about is if you have an alternating pattern for the same rooms and you want to make sure that they're cleaned, I think the best way to approach that, again, thinking about what we have to offer, would be to set up a daily cleaning PM for that floor, or for the rooms that you know are set to that assignment. So that would be one way to address that.
Great, thank you, Fred. All right, so I think that's where we're going to stop for today. I do want to thank everyone again for joining us. We will, like I mentioned, send out the recording probably later today or tomorrow. And we're also going to create an FAQ with all these questions. So we'll include a link to that, and then also the other links that we mentioned within the presentation in the FAQs. So thank you again, Fred and Octavian, for joining us today, and hope everyone stays safe.